Hello, and welcome to Conscious Curiosities, where we unlock the wisdom of the universe which lies within us. I'm Maria Luce, your host, an astrologer, hypnotist, and psychic medium. And today, Friday, November 21st, 2025, I want to talk about the north and south node of the moon and some aspects that are coming up that I think we could leverage for making necessary changes maybe in our lives. They could be small things, they could be big things. First, I thought I might talk a little bit about the lunar nodes, also known as the north node and the south node. And I do have an episode or two on them. I'll look that up and put that in the show notes. But for today, I think I'll just stick to the astrological significance because I don't want to go into a full-blown astrology lesson here. I'm trying to keep these episodes pretty short and with some application, with some practical application. So for the sake of this episode, just know that the South Node tends to be proficiencies that we already have. And of course, proficiencies, if they become overutilized, can be areas where we become stagnant or stuck. Or they can become harmful habits because, again, if taken to the extreme or they're ignoring the context. We're not reading the room anymore, but we're staying with maybe what worked for us at one point, but may not so much. And if you are a student of evolutionary astrology, you probably would understand that some of the qualities of the South Node may be experiences, skills that you picked up in past lives or other lives, because we know time isn't linear. But even if you're not a student of evolutionary astrology or don't believe in other timelines for the soul or the spirit, you may just think of these qualities of your South Node by sign and by house as skills that you've come into this life with. So they could be just, your inherent capabilities. So that's the South Node. And then the North Node would be where we wish to, I guess, become competent or gain experience. And we often will either have a puzzling relationship with our North Node, again, depending on the way that I look at it from evolutionary astrology, depending on the way your soul set up the plan, it's either going to be somewhat of a foreign territory to you, but you will at some point in your life, you'll have this desire to experience or learn more in that area where your North Node lives. So in that sense, you can think of it as there's going to be some desire for you to explore that North Node at some point in your life, or it'll just start appearing through other people, places that you land in, synchronicities, things like that. Now, when we're looking at what's going on with the transits, and we're then attempting to understand, okay, how am I as an individual, how are we as a collective meant to work with these transits when it comes to transits to the nodes, we tend to think of that as a collective. When we look at the South Node, what are those behaviors, beliefs, system structures that are no longer serving us and that we either need to adjust or release in some way, or more more dramatic than release, like just burn away. And then for the North Node, where are we being called to that is going to serve the highest and best for the collective? And the North and South Node of the Moon, they move in a retrograde motion. Just that's their natural motion. They're not celestial bodies. They are just calculated points. So, and again, as we know, when we talk about like moving forward or retrograde, it's not the actual planet moving backwards. It's just the way that it appears from the way we're currently orbiting the sun, and the planet is the other planet is orbiting the sun, or the point that we're looking at that's calculated. So anyway, the nodes are currently, the South Node is in Virgo and the North Node is in Pisces. And they're about halfway through their tour of those signs. They're always going to be in opposing or polar signs. And the reason why I'm bringing them up is because Mars makes a square, or also called a T-square or a T-bone, to the nodes of the moon on Monday, the 24th at 5:32 a.m. Pacific. And Mars will be at 14 degrees Sagittarius. And then the South Node is the same degrees Virgo, the North Node, same degrees Pisces. And just another tidbit, if you're just learning, when the position is a square, they will always be in the same mode. And so these are all immutable modes. And the reason why this jumped out at me, well, I will say it was being like nudged to me, to coming into my field earlier this week or last week. And I had been like revisiting some of the books that I like about the nodes. And I'd been spamming my friend who has the nodes in these positions, as do I. I have the South Node in Virgo and the North Node in Pisces. And I was just kind of sending her, texts like, oh, look what I found. Like, doesn't this just resonate so much? So that was happening. And then, of course, I sit down today, it's Thursday, and I look and I find this Mars squaring the nodes. And then I look, and the full moon that's coming up on December 4th, there's going to be this grand cross where the full moon squares the nodes. And I was started to look back. I couldn't find anywhere in recent history when that has happened. So it's at least been several years since the full moon was in a square to the nodes. So this felt significant to me. So this is a lot of mutable energy, because the full moon is going to be in, the moon in Gemini, the sun in Sagittarius. And of course, as I mentioned, we have the nodes in Virgo and Pisces. And so with this Mars squaring the nodes on Monday, that might be somewhat of a preview of this full moon energy, with the full moon in that grand cross with the nodes. And the last time Mars was square the nodes was in September of 2024, when Mars was in Cancer and the nodes were still in the South Node in Libra, the North Node in Aries. So sometimes when they make a similar aspect, they pick up on a theme. So you might think about what was going on in the world at that time, or what was going on personally. And I think with this Mars square the nodes, we have Mars in Sagittarius now. And Mars is really the way we embody desire. And you can look at that as drive or ambition, but it definitely has to take place in the body. And Sagittarius, it's the mutable fire sign, and it seeks. That is the embodied activity, I would say, that it's known for. Um, and it could be thought of also as associated with uh, beliefs and with nature. These are some of the other things that Sagittarius and its ruler, Jupiter, are associated with. And so what I'm picking up is this this drive towards towards where do we feel we're being called to for a more natural belief system? And are we what are we embodying? Like how does the way that we use our embodied self, and I'm not talking about necessarily going out and competing in triathlons or whatever, just how you're using your body to within the scope of how you're able to use your body. Um, that could even be sitting at your desk and typing. Um, but how is that reflective of your natural belief system? So I know it's virtually impossible to declutter our belief system with what has been, conditioned into us. But I think that might be a theme that um, is coming up. It definitely we've been pushed to purge the conditioning and examine why we believe what we believe. And so I think this is taking it to that next step of, okay, maybe you've examined why you believe what you believe, and now examine why you do what you do and how that relates to what you believe. And with, the South Node in Virgo, it might be just what's coming to me is this letting go of the nitpicky details of, like, well, you didn't do this, so you can't collect your $200 in pass go or whatever. Or you did that, and so you have to pay for it. Or I'm not saying this is like Virgo people, but the energy can be somewhat just get caught up in the details and the sequence of things, the rules, the categories, all of that. And then the North Node is in Pisces, so that pull is to look at things from the view that we are part of the universe. We're part of creation. We have the divine within us, and to incorporate that in how we embody our beliefs. And the other aspects that I'm looking at that are coming up over the week are on Wednesday, the 26th. We have Venus, it's still in Scorpio, making a trine to Saturn in Pisces. And I believe also on a few days later, on the 30th, Venus will also trine Neptune because, as we know, Neptune and Saturn have been traveling as a pair. So Neptune's at the 29th degree of Pisces. And these trine aspects are a flow of energy. So it is a conversation and assist that's happening between Venus, which is our relationships, our values. When Venus is representing Taurus, it is about our senses and our body. So both of those things tying back to what Mars is doing with the nodes. And in this flow with Saturn in Pisces, Saturn is our discipline and our mastery and our structure. And Neptune also in Pisces. Neptune is our dreams, our imagination, and maybe dissolving boundaries that Saturn puts up. Or I guess you could think of it as not looking at it in that dual way, but with the two of them there in Pisces, Pisces is very much about not having man made boundaries, um, but thinking of things as able to be expanded where they need to, or to be permeable where that is good for the structure. So Venus talking to those two planets. And in the middle of those two aspects, we have a first quarter moon on Friday, the 28th. And that is the moon in Pisces. And of course, the sun in Sagittarius now. So, all of those would be the wrap up for this week. I feel that we are continuing that theme that the new moon provided us to be looking through all of our baggage, our conditioning. Some patterns might be repeating because there was so much retrograde energy in that new moon. And I'm just sending you a lot of love and support because I know that's been hard. It's been super hard for me. So I wish you the best, and we will talk again soon. Oh, and this week I didn't write a Substack. So I have been writing weekly, and I've been recording this podcast separately, going out to all the podcast players and just loading it behind the scenes on Substack. However, I accidentally published it or emailed it or something last week. And then it made me think, well, why don't I just alternate the audio and the written? And so this week, I'm just doing the audio. And then next week, which will be the Friday after Thanksgiving, I should be doing the written piece unless I take the day off. Like I said, I'm going through all of this like everyone else too. So no promises, but that's my plan anyway. And I wish you a good week. Thanks.